of you out there might be wondering, hey Mark, why are you outside in this blizzard? Well, I'm off to the gym, and you should too, you fat slob. Be kind, God bless.
The wind carried the sound of the pipes long before the procession came into view. 2 white horses stepped slowly down the road, their hooves muffled by the flowers scattered in their path. Bright blue and yellow feathers swayed above their heads, the colours of Hope's favourite cartoon. Behind them, the ornate carriage held a small white coffin, its sides painted with smiling animated pups. A man in full Highland dress played a mournful tune, the notes curling into the grey January sky. Along the roadside, people clutched tissues and held each other's hands. Some whispered her name, others simply stood in silence as the carriage passed. For the Gordon family, this was Hope's day, the final journey in a short life. Just weeks earlier, behind the closed door of a quiet West Calder home, the unthinkable was about to happen. By the way, this is Dark Case, and you can call me Jack. I bring you rare and unseen true crime cases, as well as other things that you may later regret knowing. And right now I'm uploading Monday to Friday every single week. So if all of that sounds like your kind of thing, then make sure you join the Dark Case family now by hitting subscribe and turning all notifications on. And now for today's silly little question. What is that one album you've been listening to for pretty much your entire life, but you still can't stop? Let me know down in the comments. All of your support over on Patreon, as well as right here via channel memberships on YouTube, are so appreciated, and I really can't thank you all enough. However, thank you. But now, on with the video. In Livingston's Deadridge area, the streets filled long before midday. Neighbours, friends, teachers and strangers all came together, their breath hanging in the cold air. The first to arrive brought flowers. Others followed with handmade cards, balloons and soft toys, tucking them into the growing collection near the route. When the horses finally appeared, the crowd paid close attention. Hope's coffin had been decorated with characters from Paw Patrol, the animated series that she so loved. Behind the carriage, a family friend walked dressed as Chase, one of the show's most recognisable characters. The tribute had been suggested by 6-year-old Hope's classmates at Toronto Primary School. There she was known for her bright smile and gentle nature. The hearse followed a car, carrying a Paw Patrol-themed floral arrangement provided by the school itself. It was a gift from the pupils and staff who had been struggling to make sense of what had happened. The piper led the way, every note cutting through the stillness. The sound seemed to travel down each street before the coffin even came into sight. This gave people a moment to prepare themselves. Some bowed their heads, some quietly cried, their tears warm against the freezing air. When the procession reached Addenbrae Cemetery, the path was lined with more flowers. Roses, lilies, daisies, many in yellow and blue. Children stood holding soft toys in their hands, unsure whether to wave or stand still. It was, as the family called it, Hope's Day. A day not for questions, but for just saying goodbye. And yet, in the silence between the bagpipe notes, a question lingered in every mind. How could something like this have happened here? At Toronto Primary, the halls felt quieter. Teachers spoke more softly to the students. Children clutched each other's hands. Head teacher Fiona Linford chose her words with care. Hope was a much-loved member of the Toronto Primary family and will be hugely missed by all her friends and school staff. She was a bright, bubbly and affectionate girl who brought joy to everyone she met. We will really miss her infectious smile and kind heart. The quotes were read aloud at a short gathering in the playground. A few pupils nodded along, others just stared at the ground. Many locals had tied blue and yellow ribbons to the fence. They lifted in the wind like small flags. Across town, another message travelled fast. It came from Tess, Hope's aunt. The tragedy that fell upon the hearts and souls of Hope's family, especially her mum, will never be understood or justified. The torment, torture and heartache that we feel will never be able to be described. Not today, not tomorrow, and not in the future. Not only do we feel empty, but the world feels empty too. People read those lines on their phones, screens blurred with tears. Friends sent each other screenshots and small heart emojis. In a situation like this, nobody seemed to know the right thing to say, but the wrong thing would have been just to stay in silence. So they spoke about Hope. They remembered her love for animals. They remembered the way that she beamed when she learned a new word in French. They remembered the little drawings that she scribbled in her notebooks. They remembered the laugh that made you laugh back. And as the day of the procession drew near, something gentle took shape, an unspoken promise that Hope would not make that journey alone. The page went live with a single name, Hope. Beneath it, a message from family friend Melanie Wielden. Hope's life was tragically cut short, leaving a void in the hearts of her family and friends that can never be filled. This GoFundMe page has been created to help Hope's family with the unexpected funeral expenses during this incredibly difficult time. People in the local area and beyond shared the link. Donations appeared in just minutes. £5, £10, 20, some gave more. By nightfall, the total had leapt past the first target, and then it just kept on going. It shot past £2,000, and then past £8,500, and then it shot past £10,000. The comments section became a kind of book of remembrance. Some of the comments read, from one Toronto parent to another, for your beautiful girl, with love from a stranger. Candles flickered outside near the route that the carriage would take. Someone placed a soft toy among them. Someone else tucked a hand-drawn chase into the ribbons. A cluster of kids whispered the names of Paw Patrol characters, like a list of small guardians for Hope. Chase, Sky, Marshall. On a nearby wall, a printed statement asked for kindness. Police would speak soon, it said. There would be time for details. But for now, there was a family to hold, a community to steady, and a little girl to carry with dignity along her final road. And behind those candles, behind the donations and the flowers, the same question sat with everyone who stopped to listen. Just how did we get here? And what happened behind that normally quiet door? In West Calder, the silence didn't feel normal. It was the kind that followed shock. It wasn't peace, but a kind of pause. Councillor Craig Meek called it shockwaves, and he wasn't wrong. At the shops, people spoke in lowered voices. Near the school, parents lingered after drop-off, glancing at one another, unsure if they should mention it. Some had brought their children to the vigil. Others had decided they were too young. I mean, how could you explain this? A local mum summed it up in just a few words. You think these things happen somewhere else, not here. And that sentiment passed from mouth to mouth. Lawrence Fitzpatrick, leader of West Lothian Council, described this incident as tragic and deeply upsetting, adding that the whole area felt the loss. We have officers and school staff offering the appropriate support and reassurance at this very difficult time, he said. The visible presence of police cars didn't make it feel any safer. If anything, it made it feel less so. Uniformed officers stood near the cordons. They spoke quietly into their radios, understanding that the eyes of the community were on them. A blue forensic tent had been put up in the garden of the house on Harburn Drive. It was a reminder that somewhere inside that cordon lay the answers to all of the questions that nobody wanted to ask out loud. People were desperate for details, but were dreading them at the same time. The police hadn't yet released the timeline. For now, the only certainty was a noticeable absence, the missing sound of Hope's laughter in the playground, the missing sight of her mum walking her to school, the missing morning where everything might have been different. It was 3 days after the discovery when Chief Superintendent Greg Banks finally stepped up to speak. He called it a shocking and deeply upsetting incident for the families involved, and he said that the impact was felt right across the local community. He thanked residents for their support as officers carried out what he called essential inquiries within the house. Beside him, Detective Superintendent Grant Hendry gave the clearest statement yet, revealing just a little more. Our thoughts remain with Hope's family and friends, along with everyone affected by this tragedy. He added that specialist officers were providing support, and that, at this time, We have no information to suggest anyone else is involved. This meant there would be no manhunt, no list of suspects, but also no clear answers. Hope's father, a man named Mark Gordon, his time on this earth ending was described as unexplained, and Hope's, now confirmed through a post-mortem, was being treated as murder. However, the specific cause was not shared. When pressed by reporters, Hendry repeated that inquiries are at an early stage, and that it would take time to get answers for the family and community.
So local officers attended the scene. It's a traumatic scene that we're processing at the moment, and we're supporting those officers as well ongoing, having seen what they've seen.
What do we know about the victims?
So we can confirm the relationship as father and daughter, and further to that we're supporting both families, and we'll continue to do so as we process and investigate.
Are you looking for anyone else with regards to this?
I confirm that the information we have available at the moment would suggest we're not looking for anyone else at this time.
So that would suggest that perhaps the father has murdered the daughter?
Again, I'm not going to speculate until investigation concludes at the moment, and all options are open at the moment.
I mean, somebody must have seen something, given the time of day, broad daylight. You would think that something, maybe seen something or heard something.
So we are engaging with the local community and the neighbours in the immediate vicinity. We'll continue to engage with them and thank them for the support so far, and anybody with any information, I'd urge them to come forward to the officers who remain at the scene.
Behind the measured words, it was clear that the case weighed heavily on the officers who had first responded. Hendry admitted that those local officers had faced a traumatic experience on the day that they entered the property. He asked for privacy for the family at that time. He also urged anyone with information, no matter how small, to come forward, and then he left without taking any more questions. The unanswered elements lingered in the air, which now felt even heavier, because with every careful statement it became even clearer. Whatever had happened inside that house was something that nobody would want to picture. The night before Hope's Day, the air in Livingston carried a strange mix of anticipation and sorrow. Funeral staff prepared the horse and carriage in quiet stables. Florists worked late, shaping yellow and blue blooms into the Paw Patrol tributes that would follow the hearse. Inside the family home, Margaret, Hope's mother, faced what her friends would describe as her lowest point. There were photographs of Hope at every stage of her short life. A messy-fingered toddler holding a paintbrush, a beaming schoolgirl showing off her spelling test, a bundled figure building a snowman just 2 weeks before. Close friend Melanie Wilden sat with her, talking about the details of the day to come. She told reporters later, if there was any idea that Hope was in danger, she would never have gone to her dad's. Father Mark Gordon had shared custody, and there had been no warning signs as to what was about to happen. In fact, Mark shared this video shortly before the events in this case.
A lot of you out there might be wondering, hey Mark, why are you outside in this blizzard? Well, I'm off to the gym, and you should too, you fat slob. Be kind, God bless.
There was no sign to suggest that he was capable of harm, but now Mother Margaret couldn't bear to hear his name. She wanted her daughter remembered without his shadow. Melanie's fundraiser had been meant to take away the weight of the funeral costs, but instead it became a symbol of something larger. It showed the sheer scale of people who wanted to help carry Hope, if not in body, then in spirit, to wrap their arms around the family. And that night, in homes across West Lothian, parents tucked in their children and lingered just a little longer at the door. Some whispered, "I love you," twice. Some turned back for one more hug. And outside, in the cold, candles were still burning. January the 20th began like any other Monday. Hope should have been in school by 9 a.m, but by mid-morning, her absence was noticed. Toronto Primary tried to make contact, and a family member, concerned, went to check on Mark Gordon's home, situated on Harburn Drive. However, there was no answer at the door, and calls also went unanswered. By 4 p.m, the police were now involved. Officers arrived with urgency but found the property locked. They called the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service for assistance. Neighbours watched as firefighters forced entry. A blue tent was later set up in the garden, and inside the home, officers found the bodies of Hope and Father Mark. What happened between morning and afternoon has not been fully publicly detailed. However, police confirmed that they were not seeking anyone else in connection with the passings. This meant that all of this was done by Mark's hand. Hope's ending was treated as murder. Mark's was unexplained, though not suspicious. So there was an answer, but not the kind that could deliver any healing. In the days that followed, officers went door to door, piecing together movements, calls and last sightings. In a very rare occurrence, police would not say what they had found, just that the details were too much to share. But they did make it clear that the first responders had been through something that no training could have prepared them for. And knowing what emergency services see on a day-to-day basis, the scene must have been truly heinous beyond the imagination. As the investigation continued behind a taped-off doorway, the community began planning something of their own, a farewell worthy of the little girl that they had loved and lost. In the weeks after the funeral, the police presence on Harburn Drive slowly faded. The cordon came down, the blue tent disappeared. Neighbours began parking in the spaces that had been sealed off. However, the house in question still stayed shuttered, its windows reflecting only grey winter skies. Detectives from the major investigation team concluded their inquiries. They confirmed that there would be no charges, because there was nobody left to charge. The Police Investigations and Review Commissioner continued its separate review into the case, a process likely to take months. For the family, those findings, whenever they arrive, would not bring back the little girl with quick wit, the top marks on her maths tests, and the soft spot for Paw Patrol. For the community, it was about holding on to her name, without the darkness that took her. The flowers left along the funeral route eventually wilted, the ribbons faded, but the grief remained fresh. And now when people spoke of January the 20th, they didn't talk about what happened on Harburn Drive. They talked about Hope's Day, about white horses and blue feathers, about a crowd that came together even in the bitter cold, about the sound of the piper's tune carrying her home. Be careful out there, and I'll see you soon.